Good afternoon, everyone. We're on page 803 if you're following along in your own Gospels. At the top of the page, it's the car festival at Balaram's house. And we all know what a car festival is, don't we? They have a carriage where they take the deity out of the shrine, put the deity in the carriage, and go around the town, around the temple, or in Balaram's house, around the atrium that went up the center of the house. Okay, so M went to the Ganges to take his bath. It was 10 o'clock. Sri Ramakrishna was still talking with the devotees. After finishing his bath, M returned to Balaram's house. He saluted the master and sat down next to him. Sri Ramakrishna was filled with intense spiritual fervor. Words of wisdom flowed from him. Now and then he narrated his profound mystical experiences to the devotees. Master, I went to Benares with Mathur Babu. Our boat was passing the Manikarnika Ghat on the Ganges, when suddenly I had a vision of Shiva. I stood near the edge of the boat and went into samadhi. The boatman, fearing that I might fall into the water, cried to Hridoy, "Catch hold of him, catch hold of him." I saw Shiva standing on that ghat, embodying in himself all the seriousness of the world. At first I saw him standing at a distance. Then I saw him approaching me. At last he merged in me. Another time, in an ecstatic mood, I saw that a sannyasi was leading me by the hand. We entered a temple, and I had a vision of Annapurna made of gold. God alone has become all this, but he manifests himself more in certain things than in others. In Benares, the Mahakarnika Ghat, the Vishwanath temple to Shiva, and the Annapurna temple to the mother are in very, very close proximity. It's easy walking through these narrow little alleys, so, and with a multitude of small shrines in between. To M, perhaps you do not believe in the shalagram. Englishmen do not believe in it. Does everyone know what the shalagram is? That's the emblem of Vishnu, not Shiva. The emblem of Shiva is, of course, the lingam. It doesn't matter whether you believe in it or not. A shalagram should contain the mark of a disc and other signs. Only then can it be worshipped as an emblem of God. Yes, sir, it is Yes, sir, it is like the fuller manifestation of God in a man with good physical traits. Master, at first Narendra used to say that these were figments of my imagination, but now he accepts everything. Sri Ramakrishna was describing the vision of God when he went into samadhi. The devotees looked at him with fixed gaze. After a long time, he regained consciousness of the world and talked to the devotees. Master to him, what do you think I saw? I saw the whole universe as a shalagram, and in it I saw your two eyes. In silent wonder, M and the devotees listened to these words about his inner experience. At this moment, Sarada, another young disciple of the master, entered the room and saluted him. Master to Sarada, why don't you come to Dakshineshwar? Why don't you see me when I come to Calcutta? Sarada, nobody tells me about it. Master, next time I shall let you know. To M, smiling, make a list of these youngsters. M and the devotees laugh. Sarada, my relatives at home want me to marry. Pointing to M, how many times he has scolded me about marriage. Master, why should you marry just now? To M, Sarada is now in a very good state of mind. Formerly, he had a hesitant look. Now his face beams with joy. Sri Ramakrishna said to a devotee, "Would you kindly fetch Purna?" Narendra arrived. Sri Ramakrishna asked a devotee to give him some refreshments. He was greatly pleased at the sight of Narendra. When he fed Narendra, he felt he was feeding Narayana himself. He stroked Narendra's body affectionately. Gopal Ma entered the room. She was a great devotee of Gopala and was blessed with many lofty spiritual visions. Sri Ramakrishna had asked Balaram to send a man to bring her from Kamarhati. As soon as she entered the room, she said, "I am shedding tears of joy." With these words, she bowed down before the Master, touching the ground with her forehead. "Master, what is this? You address me as Gopala, and still you salute me? Now go into the inner apartments and cook some curry for me. Put some spicy seasoning in it so that I may get the smell from here." All laughed. Gopal Ma, "What will they," meaning the members of the household, "think of me?" Before she left the room, she said to Narendra in a very fervent voice, "My child, have I reached the goal or have I further to go?" Now, Narendra had severe doubts about people having visions of God, actually seeing God as a living being. But when he met Gopal Ma, he completely changed his view and admitted that she was seeing and taking care of the baby Gopala, not just in the form of Ramakrishna, but before she found Ramakrishna. And now she is asking Narendra, "Have I reached the goal or have I further to go?" It was the day of the car festival, so there was some delay in the worship of the family deity. When the worship was finished, Sri Ramakrishna was asked to have his meal. He went into the inner apartments. The women devotees were anxious to see him. Sri Ramakrishna had many women devotees, but he did not talk much about them to his men devotees. He would warn the men against visiting women devotees. He would say, "Don't overdo it, otherwise you will slip." To some of his men devotees, he would say, "Don't go near a woman, even if she rolls on the ground with devotion." The Master wanted the men to live apart from women devotees. Only thus would the two groups make progress. He did not like the women devotees to caress the men as Gopala. For too much of this motherly affection was not good. It degenerated in time into a harmful relationship. After his midday meal, Sri Ramakrishna sat in the drawing room with the devotees. It was 1:00. A devotee brought Purna from his home. With great joy, the Master exclaimed to him, "Here he is! Purna has come!" Narendra, the younger Narayan, Haripada, and other devotees were talking with the Master. The younger Narayan, "Sir, have we any free will?" Master, "Just try to find out who this I is. While you are searching for I, he comes out. I am the machine and he is the operator. You have heard of a mechanical toy that goes into a store with a letter in its hand. You are like that toy. God alone is the doer. Do your duties in the world as if you were the doer, but knowing all the time that God alone is the doer and you are the instrument. As long as the upadi exists, there's ignorance. I am a scholar. I am a jnani. I am wealthy. I am honorable. I am the master, father, and teacher. All these ideas are begotten of ignorance. I am the machine and you are the operator. That is knowledge. In the state of knowledge, all upadis are destroyed. When the log is burnt up entirely, there is no more sound, no heat either. Everything cools down. Peace, peace, peace. To Narendra, sing a little. Narendra, I must go home. I have many things to do. Master, yes, yes, my child. Why should you listen to us? The words of those who have gold in their ears are valuable. No one listens to him who hasn't even a rag around his waist. All laugh. You frequent the garden house of the Guhas. I always hear about it. Whenever I ask, where is Narendra today, I am told, oh, he has gone to the Guhas. I should not have said all these things, but you have wrung them out of me. Narendra kept quiet a few moments. Then he said, there are no instruments to accompany me. Shall I just sing? Master, my child, this is all we have. Please sing if it suits you. You must know how Balaram arranges things. Balaram says to me, please come to Calcutta by boat. Take a carriage only if you must. All laugh. You see, he has given us a feast today, so this afternoon he will make us all dance. All laugh again. One day, he hired a carriage for me from here to Dakshineshwar. He said that the carriage hire was 12 annas. I said to him, will the coachman take me to Dakshineshwar for 12 annas? Oh, that will be plenty, he replied. One side of the carriage broke down before we reached Dakshineshwar. All laughed again. Besides, the horse stopped every now and then. It simply would not go. Once in a while, the coachman whipped the horse, and then it ran a short distance. All laughed again. The program for the evening is that Ram will play on the drum, and we shall all dance. Ram has no sense of rhythm. All laugh. Anyhow, that is Balaram's attitude. Sing yourselves, dance yourselves, and make yourselves happy. All right, all laughed again. Other devotees were arriving. Mahendra Mukherjee saluted the master from a distance. The master returned the salute. Then he salaamed to Mahendra like a Mussulman. The master said to a young devotee who sat next to him, why don't you tell him I have salaamed him? He will appreciate it. All laughed again. Many of the householder devotees were accompanied by their wives and other women relatives. They wanted to salute the master and watch his dancing before the car. Ram, Girish, and other devotees gradually assembled. Many young devotees were present. Narendra sang, oh, when will dawn the blessed day when love will awaken in my heart? When will my tears flow uncontrolled as I repeat Lord Hari's name, and all my longing be fulfilled? When will my mind and soul be pure? Oh, when shall I at last repair into Vrindavan's sacred groves? When will my worldly bonds fall off and my imperfect sight be healed by wisdom's cool collyrium? When shall I learn true alchemy and, touching the philosopher's stone, transmute my body's worthless iron into the spirit's purest gold? When shall I see this very world as God and roll on love's highway? When shall I give up pity and duty and the thought of caste? When shall I leave behind all fear, all shame, convention, worry, pride? Oh, I shall smear my body then with dust from the feet of devotees. Across my shoulders I shall sling renunciation's pack and drink from my two hands a cooling draught of Jamuna's life-renewing stream. Oh, then I shall be mad with love. I shall both laugh and weep for joy. Then I shall swim upon the sea of blessed Satchidananda, drunk with his love. I shall make all as drunk as I. Oh, I shall sport at Hari's feet forevermore. He sang again, "In dense darkness, O Mother, thy formless beauty sparkles. Therefore the yogis meditate in a dark mountain cave." Balaram had arranged for kirtan with Vishnava Charan, the musician. Vishnav Charan sang, "O tongue, always repeat the name of Mother Durga. Who but your Mother Durga will save you in distress?" When Ramakrishna had heard a line or two of the song, he went into samadhi. He stood up in that ecstatic mood. The younger Narayan supported him. The master's face was lighted with a smile. Gradually his body became motionless. His mind appeared to have gone to another realm. All the devotees in the room looked at him in amazement. The women devotees watched the scene from behind the screen. After a long time, he came down from samadhi, chanting the holy name of God. As the master sat down, Vaishnav Charan sang again, "O Veena, sing Lord Hari's name. Without the blessing of his feet, you cannot know the final truth. The name of Hari slays all grief. Sing Hari's name, sing Krishna's name." Then he sang, "O Veena, forgetting to worship Hari, I passed the days of my life in vain." It was afternoon. In the meantime, the small car of Jagannath, decorated with flowers, flags, and bunting, had been brought to the inner veranda. The images of Jagannath, Subhadra, and Balarama were adorned with sandal paste, flower garlands, robes, and jewelry. Sri Ramakrishna left the room where the professional musicians were singing and came to the veranda, accompanied by the devotees. He stood in front of the car and pulled it by the rope. He began to sing and dance with the devotees in front of the car. The master sang, "Behold, the two brothers have come who weep while chanting Hari's name." That's Nityananda and Gauranga. He sang again, "See how all Nadia is shaking under the waves of Gauranga's love." The music and dancing went on in the veranda as the car was pulled to and fro. A large crowd entered the house on hearing the loud music and beating of the drums. Sri Ramakrishna was completely intoxicated with divine love. The devotees felt its contagion and danced with the master in an ecstasy of love. Afterwards, Sri Ramakrishna returned to the drawing room. M and the other devotees stroked his feet. Filled with divine fervor, Narendra sang to the accompaniment of the tampura, "Come, come, Mother, doll of my soul, O heart, my heart's delight. In my heart's lotus come and sit, that I may see thy face." Then he sang, "Mother, thou art our soul redeemer, thou the support of the three gunas. Higher than the Most High, thou art compassionate, I know, who takest away our bitter grief. Sandhya art thou and Gayatri. Thou dost sustain this universe. Mother, the help art thou of those who have no help but thee, O eternal beloved of Shiva. Thou art in earth, in water thou liest at the root of all, in me, in every creature. Thou hast thy home. Though clothed with form, yet art thou formless reality." He sang another song. "I have made thee, O Lord, the pole star of my life. No more shall I lose my way on the world's trackless sea. Wherever I wander here, thy brilliance shines undimmed. With thy serene and gracious light, thou drivest all the tears out of my troubled soul. In my heart's innermost shrine, thy face forever beams. If for a moment even I cannot find it there, my soul is overwhelmed with woe. And when my witless mind strays from the thought of thee, the vision of thy face strikes me with deepest shame." A devotee said to Narendra, "Will you sing that one, O Mother, thou my inner guide, ever awake within my heart?" Master, "Oh no, why that song? The proper thing now is to sing of divine bliss. A song like, O Mother Shama, full of the waves of drunkenness divine." Narendra sang, "O Mother Shama, full of the waves of drunkenness divine, who knows how thus thou dost sport in the world? Thy fun and frolic and thy glances put to shame the God of love. O wielder of the sword, O thou of terrifying face, the earth itself is shaken under thy leaps and strides. O thou abode of the three gunas, O Redeemer, fearsome one, thou who art the consort of Shiva. Many the forms thou dost assume, fulfilling thy bhakta's prayers. Thou dancest in the lotus of the heart, O Mother, eternal consort of Brahman." Full of divine ecstasy, Narendra sang again and again the lines, "Thou dancest in the lotus of the heart, O Mother, eternal consort of Brahman." Sri Ramakrishna was dancing, drunk with divine love, and he sang again and again, "O Mother, eternal consort of Brahman." After dancing a long time, Sri Ramakrishna resumed his seat. He was very much pleased to see Narendra in a spiritual mood, singing with tears in his eyes. It was about 9 o'clock in the evening. The devotees still sat around the master. Vaishnav Charan sang about Gauranga. The beautiful Gauranga, the youthful dancer, fair as molten gold. Next, he sang about Sri Krishna. Krishna had left his pastoral life in Vrindavan and become the king of Mathura. A gopi met him there and said, "O Hari, how shall we know you now? In Mathura's royal splendor you have forgotten us. Now in your kingly robes you ride an elephant. Have you utterly forgotten how in Vrindavan you tended cows? O Hari, have you forgotten how you would steal the butter from Braja's innocent gopi maids?" About 11 o'clock, the devotees saluted the master and were departing one by one. "Master, you may all go." Pointing to Narendra and the younger Narayan, "It will be enough if these two stay." To Girish, "Will you eat your supper at home? You may stay a few minutes if you want to. You want to smoke. But Balaram's servant is just like his master. Ask him for a smoke, he won't give it." All laugh. "But don't go away without having your smoke." Girish had brought with him a bespectacled friend. The latter observed all these things and left the place. Sri Ramakrishna said to Girish, "I say this to you and to everyone. Please do not force anybody to come here. Nothing happens except at the right time." Before leaving, a devotee saluted the master. He had a young boy with him. Sri Ramakrishna said to him affectionately, "It is getting late and you have this boy with you." Narendra, the younger Narayan, and a few other devotees stayed a while and then took their leave. That's the end of that night. Are there any questions or any comments? Everyone's familiar with Jagannath, Subhadra, and Balarama, which is the deities at the Jagannath temple in Orissa, near Puri. It's actually a very simple wooden statue of the three of them. Not highly ornate, painted wood. You've seen the little tiny copies of it. They're about this big, probably 3 inches. Comparable to Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana, because it's the same God, Maya, brother in line. If there are no further questions, we can read a little more. Wednesday, July 15th, 1885. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. Sri Ramakrishna was in bed in the small room next to the drawing room. M was sitting on a bench on the outer veranda to the south of the room. A few minutes later, Sri Ramakrishna came out to the veranda and M saluted him. Master, I have already been up once. Well, shall we go to Dakshineshwar this morning? M. The Ganges is less choppy in the morning. Day was gradually breaking. The devotees had not yet arrived. Sri Ramakrishna had washed his mouth and was chanting the names of God in his sweet voice. He stood near the north door of the room, M by his side. A few minutes later, Gopal Ma arrived and stood near him. One or two women devotees were looking at the master from behind the doors of the inner apartments. They were like the gopis of Vrindavan looking at Sri Krishna, or the women devotees of Nadia looking at Gauranga from behind the screen. After chanting the name of Rama, Sri Ramakrishna chanted the name of Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna of the gopis, Gopi, Gopi, Krishna, the life of the cowherd boys of Vrindavan, Krishna, the son of Nanda, Govinda, Govinda. Next, he chanted the name of Gauranga. Then he repeated Alek Niranjana, which is a name of God, saying, Niranjana, he wept. The devotees wept too. With tears in his eyes, the master said, O Niranjan, O my child, come, eat this, take this. When shall I make my life blessed by feeding you? You have assumed this human form for my sake. He prayed to Jagannath in a very touching voice, O Jagannath, Lord of the universe, O friend of the world, O friend of the poor, I am not, O friend, outside thy universe. Be gracious to me. While he sang in praise of Jagannath, he was beside himself with divine love. Now he chanted the name of Narayana. He danced and sang, O Narayana, O Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. He danced and sang again, Ah, friend, I have not found him yet whose love has driven me mad. Afterwards, the master sat in the small room with the devotees. He was completely stripped of his clothes like a 5-year-old child. M, Balaram, and a few other devotees were in the room. Master, one can see God's form. One sees God when all upadis disappear and reasoning stops. Then a man becomes speechless and goes into samadhi. Coming to the theater, people indulge in all kinds of gossip. But the moment the curtain goes up, all conversation stops. The spectators become fully absorbed in what they see on the stage. I want to tell you something very secret. Why do I love boys like Purna and Narendra so much? Once in a spiritual mood, I felt intense love for Jagannath, love such as a woman feels for her sweetheart. In that mood, I was about to embrace him when I broke my arm. It was then revealed to me, you have assumed this human body. Therefore, establish with human beings the relationship of friend, father, mother, or son. I now feel for Purna and the other young boys as I once felt for Ramlala. I used to bathe Ramlala, feed him, put him to bed, and take him wherever I went. I used to weep for Ramlala. Now I have the same feeling for these young boys. Look at Niranjan. He is not attached to anything. He spends money from his own pocket on the poor patients in the hospital. At the proposal of marriage, he says, goodness, that is the whirlpool of the Vishalakshi, a stream near Kamarpukur. I see him seated on a light. Purna belongs to the realm of the personal God. He was born with an element of Vishnu. Ah, what yearning he has. to M. Didn't you notice that he looked at you as if you were his spiritual brother, his very own? He said he would visit me again at Captain's house. Narendra belongs to a very high plane, the realm of the absolute. He has a manly nature. So many devotees come here, but there is not one like him. Every now and then I take stock of the devotees. I find that some are like lotuses with 10 petals, some like lotuses with 16 petals, some like lotuses with 100 petals. But among lotuses, Narendra is a 1,000-petaled one. Other devotees may be like pots or pitchers, but Narendra is a huge water barrel. Others may be like pools or tanks, but Narendra is a huge reservoir like the Haldapukur. Among fish, Narendra is a huge red-eyed carp. Others are like minnows or smelts or sardines. Tarak of Bulgaria may be called a bass. Narendra is a very big receptacle, one that can hold many things. He is like a bamboo with a big hollow space inside. Narendra is not under the control of anything. He is not under the control of attachment or sense pleasures. He is like a male pigeon. If you hold a male pigeon by its beak, it breaks away from you, but the female pigeon keeps still. Narendra has the nature of a man, so he sits on the right side in a carriage. Bhavanat has a woman's nature, so I make him sit on the other side. I feel great strength when Narendra is with me in a gathering. This is quite an explanation of why it was Narendra to become Swami Vivekananda, who was the one who spread the message of Ramakrishna to the world. Now, anyone have any other questions? Any questions, any comments? Okay, we'll see you next week. Let's see. Remember, we have Vespers. They're open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday here. We will have the Eternal Companion next Wednesday at 4:30. We'll have the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna next Saturday. And I'll be giving a talk on Sunday on ritual and realization at 11 o'clock. So hope to see you there. And we'll end with a chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.